Most people think of a house as a cozy space with just enough room for family and a few guests, but some homes push the idea of size to extraordinary extremes, becoming symbols of wealth, power, and ambition. From ancient castles to ultra-modern palaces, these residences show how living large can mean anything from hundreds of rooms to an entire complex the size of a small town. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore the 10 biggest houses in the world. Coming in at number 10 on our list is the Royal Palace of Caserta in Caserta, Italy. Built in 1752 for the Bourbon kings of Naples, the Royal Palace of Caserta was modeled after Versailles but on an even more colossal scale. Designed by architect Luigi Vanvitelli, the palace covers roughly 1.49 million square feet and contains over 1,200 rooms. Its interiors range from regal apartments to chapels, theaters, and audience halls, all interconnected by monumental staircases. Outside, the landscape park stretches for miles, with fountains and cascades that extend the palace's symmetry into the countryside. The palace served as both a royal residence and an administrative center, making it both a home and a statement of power. Today, Caserta is a UNESCO World Heritage Site open to the public and often used as a filming location. Walking through its halls, it's easy to see why directors use it as a stand-in for the Vatican or other palaces. It radiates grandeur. With its blend of Baroque drama and functional royal living, Caserta is the perfect entry point into the world's biggest houses. But as big as Caserta feels, it is soon overshadowed when we move east to Poland, where a medieval order built something even more enormous out of brick. Constructed in the late 13th century by the Teutonic Knights, Malbork Castle is recognized as the largest brick castle ever built, with about 1.54 million square feet of floor area. Unlike a single palace, it is actually a complex of 3 castles, high, middle, and low, joined together and fortified by thick defensive walls. While designed as a fortress, it also served as the residence of the Grand Master of the Order, complete with halls, chapels, and living quarters. The red brick Gothic architecture makes it instantly recognizable, its towers and walls rising above the nearby river. Over time, Malbork became a residence for Polish royalty before falling into decline and later being painstakingly restored. Today it is a museum and UNESCO site where visitors can explore its endless rooms, stairways, and courtyards. Its scale reminds us that medieval homes could be as imposing as any modern mansion. From a medieval stronghold, we now jump to Asia, where an entire imperial city functioned as a single home for China's emperors. Built between 1406 and 1420, the Forbidden City comes across as less a house and more a walled world. This imperial residence served as home to the emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties for nearly 500 years. Inside its walls are 1.61 million square feet of buildings spread across 980 structures and nearly 9,000 rooms. The design follows a rigid ceremonial layout, grand halls for rituals and politics to the south, more intimate residential courtyards to the north. The golden roofs, red walls, and marble courtyards make it one of the most recognizable palace complexes on the earth. Life inside was highly ritualized, with emperors and their households living in near seclusion. After the fall of the monarchy in 1912, the Forbidden City was divided for use by both the public and the last living emperor until 1924, when he was evicted in the midst of a coup. In 1925, it became the Palace Museum, preserving not just the architecture, but also vast collections of Chinese art. Today it draws millions of visitors each year who can step into the once forbidden world of imperial domestic life. And while the Forbidden City was a city unto itself, Europe also produced sprawling palace complexes, one of the most important being the papal residence in Vatican City. The Apostolic Palace, largely constructed during the 15th and 16th centuries, remains the official residence of the Pope. With approximately 1.7 million square feet, it is an enormous complex that includes the papal apartments, administrative offices, libraries, and chapels. Among its treasures are the Raphael rooms and the Sistine Chapel, with Michelangelo's legendary ceiling. While the Pope's actual living quarters are just a small part of the palace, historically, this was his home as well as the center of the Catholic administration. The building's mix of private apartments and grand ceremonial spaces reflects its dual role as both a residence and a seat of power. Even today, the Apostolic Palace remains central to papal life. Walking through its ornate corridors, one senses the blending of household routines with world-shaping decisions. Yet the Pope's palace, impressive as it is still dwarfed when compared to a Southeast Asian royal residence that combines faith, politics, and sheer size. Completed in 1984, the official home of the Sultan of Brunei is one of the largest functioning royal palaces on Earth. Covering about 2.15 million square feet, the palace has 1,788 rooms, including 257 bathrooms. Its design blends traditional Malay and Islamic styles with modern construction, resulting in a residence of domes, arches, and glittering gold. Among its features are a banquet hall that can seat 5,000 guests and a mosque of similar capacity. The palace even includes air-conditioned stables for 200 polo ponies, reflecting the Sultan's personal interest. While the home is closed to the public most of the year, during Islamic festivals, the Sultan opens the doors to tens of thousands of citizens for a massive open house. Still a private residence, as well as a seat of government, it blurs the line between palace and small city. But Brunei isn't the only nation with the leader's residence on this scale. For an even larger one, we must head over to Russia. Completed in 1762, the Winter Palace is an iconic Baroque residence that served as the official home of Russia's imperial family. Its total floor space is about 2.5 million square feet, spread across grand halls, staircases, and living apartments. Painted in green and white with gilded trim, the palace dominates the banks of the Neva River. Inside, rooms like the Jordan Staircase in St. George's Hall reflect imperial ambition in their scale and opulence. It was at once a family home, a political stage, and a showcase of Russia's wealth. The palace witnessed key historic moments, from coronations to the storming of 1917 that helped end Tsarist rule. Today it is part of the State Hermitage Museum, one of the most important art collections in the world. Yet its residential history remains visible in its apartments and private suites, which remind us that it was once home to generations of Romanovs. And if the Winter Palace seems vast, Vienna's Hofburg shows how royal households could expand their homes over centuries into near cities. The Hofburg Palace began in the 13th century and grew through additions over hundreds of years into a residence of roughly 2.58 million square feet. For centuries, it was the winter residence of the Habsburg emperors. The Hofburg includes 18 wings, 19 courtyards, and more than 2,500 rooms, each reflecting a different era's architecture: Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque, and beyond. Inside are the imperial apartments, chapels, and halls where the emperors worked and lived. Today it houses Austria's president, museums, and national library, and even the Spanish writing school. Walking through, you can see how successive generations layered their styles, turning it into both a living space and an empire's command center. But still, one historic palace, a new build, and a private residence all surpass it in scale. Next we are heading to a former royal residence in France that became the most visited museum on Earth. The Louvre began life in the 12th century as a fortress and was transformed into a royal residence in the Renaissance. Expanded by Francis I and later kings, it eventually became the primary home of the French monarchy until Louis XIV moved to Versailles in 1682. At about 2.6 million square feet, it is a vast complex of interconnected wings and courtyards. Its architecture blends Renaissance grace with later Baroque and neoclassical touches, resulting in a building that is as much a timeline as a home. Inside, royal apartments set beside ceremonial halls, all richly decorated. After ceasing to be a residence, it transformed into the Louvre Museum, now the most famous museum in the world. Yet its residential roots remain in its layout and surviving rooms. Standing in the courtyards, it's easy to imagine the bustle of royal life that once animated its halls. And now for the newest house on our list, which was recently completed. Known as the White Palace, Ak Saray was finished in 2014 as the official presidential palace of Turkey. At 3.2 million square feet, it outpaces every royal residence on the planet. The complex reportedly contains over 1,100 rooms, along with offices, ceremonial halls, and guest accommodations. Architecturally, it references Ottoman design while presenting a modern, monumental face to the world. Its size and cost, well over $500 million, sparked controversy within Turkey, but its builders intended it as a symbol of national pride. For the president, it functions as both home and administrative headquarters. Marble-lined corridors and vast reception spaces reinforce its role as a palace for a modern republic. In global rankings, it represents the scale of 21st century leadership housing. And yet, as immense as these residences have been, one private residence in India outshines them all in raw scale, making it the largest house on Earth. Completed in 1890, Lakshmi Vilas Palace is widely considered the largest private residence in the world, with around 3.3 million square feet of finished floor space and grounds that stretch over 30 million square feet. While the size of the house has been greatly exaggerated to nearly 10 times its actual size in various publications, even without embellishing, it is absolutely at the top of the list as is. This house is so large that you could fit Buckingham Palace in it nearly 4 times over, or America's largest house, Biltmore Estate, nearly 20 times over. Built for Amiskekwa III and designed in the Indo-Saracenic Revival style, it combines domes, turrets, and towers with European-inspired interiors. The main house contains over 170 rooms, including a grand Durbar hall with Venetian mosaic floors and stained glass windows. At the time, it boasted innovations like elevators and modern plumbing, setting it apart as a high-tech home of the 19th century. The estate also features golf courses, gardens, and smaller palaces within the grounds. Even today, parts of the palace remain a private residence for the royal family of Baroda, while other sections function as a museum. Lakshmi Vilas Palace is not just big, it's colossal, a house so large it nearly defies belief. From 18th century Caserta to the 19th century Lakshmi Villa, from medieval Malbork to modern Ak Saray, these homes reveal humanity's endless drive to build bigger, grander, and more impressive residences. Each reflects not only the size of a house, but the culture and ambition of the people who built it. While most of us don't need hundreds of rooms, a private chapel, or a polo stable, these extraordinary buildings remind us how architecture can turn the simple idea of a home into something monumental. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Which of these homes was your favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. And while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.